Today's episode features Justin Nimmergood, a real estate professional whose path into the industry was shaped by vision, reinvention, and a deep belief in showing up prepared. From early inspiration through golf course communities to building a career across California and Texas, Justin shares what it takes to grow through change, stay disciplined, and turn real estate from an income source into a true career. This conversation is full of perspective on resilience, confidence, and what it really means to show up like a professional. Let's get into it. So today I am excited to have Justin Nimmergood with us. And Justin, we're happy to have you and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brenda. I'm so thrilled to be here. It's a wonderful Thursday. So let's get into it. I'm stoked.
Good, good. So tell us a little bit about your journey, maybe how long, what brought you into real estate. Tell us about your real estate journey.
So my real estate journey really begins when I was probably about 10, 11 years old. And
Started early.
I did it early. I did it early. I started developing homes when I was 10 years old. No, I started early, but it was really golf. And that's hence why the background today was
I was
sort of
noticing
the.
that behind you. Yes, very nice.
Yeah, why the golf background? Well, the golf background really represents what inspired me to get into real estate in the first place. And so I had just started taking up golf. I really loved obviously all these different beautiful golf courses all over the US. And I started to get into what it might be like to develop a golf course or whatnot. And at the time there was some gaming systems that actually had the ability to develop different golf holes, which I sort of did at from home. And so that was really the creative, I would say, inception of everything real estate. And then obviously if you fast forward another about a decade, I really started to get into the depths of it with, real estate, commercial finance was really my first, I would say, real estate role, like true career role. And then I obviously later pivoted onto the sales side and have been in that side ever since. So yeah, but it was golf that inspired me when I was really, really young and just kind of getting into the game myself.
I think there's something to that too, because golf courses are always beautiful settings. That is one of the benefits of playing golf, which I'm not a big player, but it's one of the things about being able to go to the course and just see these beautiful homes and beautiful developments around it. So I could see where that would be inspiring for you.
It absolutely was. Yeah, and no doubt about it, Brenda. Now, obviously, when you get into the depths of it, it's a little different than just all rainbows and unicorns, if you will. But yeah, it was definitely that was the genesis for it.
That's great. It's neat that you've taken the time to actually put some to thought like that too. I don't think a lot of agents, they just kind of end up here. I don't think a lot of agents think about what their journey was to lead them into real estate.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I try to be as intentional as possible. I think in today's world, intention is important, especially in the real estate market today, right? And what we see, especially in California, which is where I started my real estate journey, very hyper competitive market. You have some of the most beautiful houses, golf courses, you name it, establishments, we'll just say in general, on the planet there. And so intention is very, very important. It's a trait that's also very important to me. So yeah, I try to be as intentional as possible. I try to really also show gratitude to some of the things that have been milestones along the way that have helped me get from point A to point B, and obviously where I am today. And obviously very grateful for all the opportunities I've been blessed with.
That's great. And so you mentioned you started in California. Were you in California very long before you moved into Texas? Was there something that brought you to Texas?
So, truth be told, I was born in Michigan. Just a quick backstory on me. I was born in Michigan, and when I was 7, my dad got transferred to work to Dallas Fort Worth, actually. So I actually grew up in Dallas Fort Worth. I was out here for high school, did my undergrad at University of Texas in Austin. But then after college, I kind of moved all over the country. So I spent a couple years in North Carolina, a couple years in Denver, Colorado. And then after my Denver trip, or time, I should say, I spent almost 17 years on the West Coast in Southern California, Orange
Wow.
County, right? So actually, the course you see as my backdrop today is actually hole number 11 at Pelican Hill Ocean South course. So one of my favorite golf courses of all time. But yeah, I was on the West Coast, and that is really where I started in, certainly in the real estate sales side of things. 2011 is when I, officially moved out to, California.
So how did you end up in Texas then?
How did I end up back in Texas?
Uh,
Well, back in Texas is kind of a long story, which we won't go into too much detail, but I'll just say between a divorce in 2016, which definitely was a rebuilding milestone, and we can certainly talk about how that and what that affected as far as my rebuilding of real estate again. And then in 2020, had breakup, spent a couple more years in California, and then I just really decided, you know what else is left for me here? I decided it was time to kind of go back home to Texas, be close to my family, replant my roots back in Texas, and see if I could, continue the real estate career in a dual state license fashion.
So do you still hold a dual state license?
I do. I
Oh,
do.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So I still have probably, I kid you not, maybe 30 to 40% of my business is still in California.
That's
Obviously, a
great.
lot of it's referral now, but I try to make sure that I go back, especially for my marquee clients. I'll go back and I'll make sure and take care of them. So several trips throughout the year, we go back, have fun out there, make sure I see my clients and then come back to the heat out here in Texas.
You try to go out there in July.
Yes. Yes. I feel like it's just like how the, people in Arizona approach it, right? They
Yes,
leave in the summers, they have their second houses in California or even the East Coast, and so we kinda do the same thing in Texas. Texas isn't the extreme heat of an Arizona, but it's kind of along the same lines, I would say.
it is. Yes. Fortunately, we have learned how to do a lot of indoor activities. So we've got a lot of things that can keep you active while keeping you in the AC here.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have to, you have to. And that HVAC, wow, that is your best friend out here. All you realtors know, like when we're doing our walkthroughs, we're always checking the HVAC systems because that's so important for our clients.
It is, yes, absolutely. So through your journey, because you've been kind of all over the country and actually practicing real estate in two of the biggest states of the country, what have you found that was maybe different, or was there a story that you really had to muddle through to get to the other side of?
Between Texas and California, I would say it's the story of the booms and busts versus the story of Steady Eddie, right? For lack of a better term. And Steady Eddie is obviously represented by, I would say, Dallas Fort Worth, Texas in general, but especially Dallas Fort Worth, where we've really been somewhat insulated from a lot of the market upturns and down. Well, hate to say upturns, right? Like, yes, we've seen the growth when we've seen an upturn, but maybe not to the extreme. But we've also not seen the downturns to the extreme either. I think been insulated a little bit, for lack of a better term. And
Yeah.
I think you look at somewhere like California, everything is magnified, I would say. But when you look at the coast, when you look at California, when you look at Miami, you look at New York, some of these coastal cities that have very volatile markets, it's boom or bust, right? And I'd say that's really the biggest difference I've seen, and I've been a part of some of the booms in California and some of the busts, right? And so that's why it's actually nice being back home in Texas in a little bit more of a it's a bit more of a conservative market, but a bit more predictable market out here. It kind of takes the edge off a little bit from what you might see as far as the booms and the busts in California.
And I've never lived in California, but I have felt like over the years that a lot of the trends tend to begin in California and then kind of wave across the country. And I have been in real estate for 25 or 26 years. So, I've watched like my other broker colleagues or other franchise owner colleagues across the country. They feel things at a different level, a different pace than what we've felt here in Texas. I completely agree with you. We're a little bit shielded in that regard. Not that we don't feel the highs and the lows, it tends to be buffered a little bit.
Yeah, it's, like I said, I say insulated, you could say
Mhm.
almost in an incubator of some sort. I definitely think, and, like, look at what happened with the Silicon Prairie craze, right? I mean, I'm sure you track that,
Yes,
all too well. Tesla comes to town, all of a sudden you get all these high-tech companies, they're coming to town, and goes nuts, peaks
crazy.
a little too early, and now they're kinda suffering the consequences of it. Whereas you have this almost deciduous effect in Dallas Fort Worth where, you know, we're not the direct market, but we're a secondary or tertiary beneficiary of what happened in Austin, right? Because people that were like, well, I don't necessarily have to live in Austin, but I need to live in Texas. So I'm going to go to Dallas Fort Worth, right?
Hmm.
And then obviously we have the McKinney Airport coming to North Dallas and we have Universal Studios. So we have some really great things coming that are going to continue to drive business, employment opportunities, and obviously real estate opportunities for us here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex.
Absolutely. And both of those that you mentioned are not in Dallas proper. They're actually not even in the immediate next suburb to Dallas. You know, they're stretching out a little further. And I live up this direction as well. So I pay close attention to that, you know, on a personal level too. But yes, I mean, we are stretching that DFW area further and further out.
We have to, right? I mean, we have to keep up with the demand, and the reality is the demand is here. So I look at markets like Frisco that I've served for a couple years now since I've been back in the Metroplex. Flower Mound, South Lake, of course, is continues to be a hit. I grew up in South Lake. It just continues to go bananas. Westlake. Westlake's
Mhm.
an interesting market. It's kind of like a little bit of a hidden market. People kind of keep to themselves there, but you've got all these really amazing suburbs in Dallas, especially North Dallas, that are just going nuts right now. And so I think we're in a really good position right now, honestly. All things considered, especially as we look at the rest of the country. I mean, I wouldn't want to be too many other places other than where we are right now.
No, I agree. And I kinda always feel that way every time we have cycles, and cycles happen, but every time we have a cycle, especially a downward trend, I'm always glad that we're in Texas.
We do things right in Texas when it comes to that.
Some things we do, yes.
Yeah.
In your career, was there ever a turning point that you're like, "This is what I have to do, and I have to do it forever, and I'm all in?"
Yeah, I had a couple of them, right? So I was thinking about that, kind of just mentally preparing for today's discussion with you, right? And so there's a couple of them that I can really think to. The first one was in 2006 when I really started my career in real estate. And again, it was on the finance side of the house. I can remember I was in college, and I got selected to go to a all expenses paid trip to New York City, and at the time, I thought I wanted to be an investment banker, you know, make that all that money and whatever. Went on that trip, realized how ridiculous the hours were that they were putting in as investment bankers, and heard all the stories about people sleeping under their cubicles just in order to get by as like junior analysts. And I said, you know
Mm-mm.
what? Maybe being an investment banker isn't for me, but I still think I want to be in finance, right? So fast forward, I'm in finance still, or finance was my major and whatnot. And I pivoted to commercial real estate finance was an actual major at University of Texas in Austin. Switched to that, a couple different internships, had a couple different full-time, part-time jobs as well while I was there in school in finance, in commercial real estate finance. And I did that right up until around graduation. And then I realized, you know what? I'm supposed to be in sales. So I ended up pivoting one more time. I ended up getting into tech sales. I was in tech sales for a couple years. I was in corporate America. I was still kind of doing and tinkering with some real estate stuff on the side and whatnot, but I wasn't really like gung ho about it at the time. And I can remember I had it was a kickoff event, right? Whereby I was supporting my partner. I was to go up and give a presentation in front of like 500, you know, of my constituents, 500 partner agents basically that I supported. I was responsible for the AT&T partnership across the whole Western US for Cisco systems at the time. And I can remember getting up in front of this room, delivering what I thought and what I think they thought, my partners anyway, was a pretty darn good presentation and speech, right? And it wasn't just a speech, it was supposed to be motivational, it was supposed to be part educational, motivational, and really get everyone rah rah, like let's go for the year, right? And I actually had a standing ovation. I can remember seeing all the different executive senior leaders from the partner company that were standing up, they were clapping their hands and whatnot. And afterward, I remember because my boss was there and he was there at the event and he just was kind of looking at me weird. I'm like, what is this guy's deal? Like, why is he looking at me like this? So he's like looking at me like I did something illegal or something. And he takes me aside afterward, and the next person's getting ready to go up and give their speech. He takes me aside and he goes, "What was that?" I said, "Well, I don't know. That was my presentation address. I don't know that I understand the framework of the question." He goes, "Justin," he goes, "they don't need a Tony Robbins. They just need a channel manager." I obviously was very well into personal development. My mind was blown. I knew at that very moment that was my exit calling.
Uh-huh.
I did everything I could, and I was out of there within a couple months following that whole event. And that event was really what reminded me, Justin, you belong as an entrepreneur, you belong as a business owner. Real estate is your calling. Get back into it. And that was my moment.
And to be in a business that does not stifle you, where you can be excited, where you can be happy and motivational for the people who you're helping.
Know how it is. You run a team, right? Like, could you imagine one of your like other brokers or someone else from your company like going up to you and telling you that the people that are the agents that look up to you don't need motivational inspiration? Like, could you imagine that?
No.
That would
Well, actually, I take that back. Yes, because it's in my experience, though, that that person who said that to you, and it would be interesting for you to go back and see what their
what they're
path
doing
has
today.
been. Yes, because I'm betting that was jealousy speaking from him to you, and so there was a whole other thing going on with him, but it was what you needed to get you on the path that you're now on.
Yeah, and it's a good damn thing that happened to me because truth be told, I'm also very loyal, to a fault, right? And I could have been trapped in that role and in corporate America for another decade, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm.
because that happened, that was my wake up call, right? So again, so 2011, that was 2011, by the way. That was my wake up call. I'm like, okay, that's it. Let's go. All right. And I started my business planning and formation, basically forming my business plans to get back, to leave corporate, to get back into real estate, to build my business and to build a couple different businesses, to be honest. It wasn't just about real estate. And the first thing I did was I wrote a book, a self-published book called Entrepreneurship: Changing Business Culture from the Inside Out. It was my self-published business memoir about why leaders in corporate America better pay attention to the mavericks that are already within their corporate context, because if not, they're going to leave in drones.
Yes,
It was my what do you call it? Dove calling my swan song. It was my swan song as I left
I
corporate.
love it. I love it.
So yeah, I self-published that. That led to some speaking opportunities, which led to, opportunities to get in front of, more people. I was obviously at the same time pursuing real estate. I had hung my hat with Berkshire Hathaway at the time. I was with them for a very long time. I have a lot of great mentors from there. But yeah, obviously as I progressed in my career, especially coming back here to Texas, I ended up with a couple of different brokerages since then as well. But yeah, 2011,
A
that was the
turning
moment.
point.
That was
Yeah.
the turning point.
I love it when we can point to those events, and whether it be an event or just a time in life or a season in life, whatever the case may be, but we can kind of go, yeah, it was right about here. That was a turning point for me.
Yeah, it's fun to go back and see that, and it's also fun to think back to all those other that particular moment. And again, like to your point, I do hope one of these days that I have the time and the wherewithal to go back to that individual and just look him up and just see what he's doing nowadays, if nothing else.
Maybe send them a thank you note.
A thank you note, a handwritten thank you note. Thank you for that conversation. I'll never forget it. It changed my life forever for the
Yes,
better.
for the better.
Yeah.
Yes. So is there anything that you would give as advice to a newer agent? Because I mean, you've made some serious commitments and changes over the course of your career. Is there anything that you would give to a newer agent and tell them what they need to do?
I mean, for me, real estate was, and like for so many people, real estate was an income source. It wasn't a career until I made that other decision, right? So even in 2011, even having a house that I somehow snagged the listing for, that I ended up representing both the buyer and the seller at 7% on almost $1 million property, made, almost six figures on my first, well, that was, I think at the time, yeah, that was my first official listing in California. Even with that, you still don't know what you're doing, right? And you still don't realize, like, okay, that's one deal and that's great, but like, this is a career, so you got to go get more of those. And I think for a lot of young agents out there, they think of real estate as, oh yeah, if I just sell a house a quarter, I can make this amount of money. But what they don't realize, all the little activities that happen in between those home sales that are necessary activities in order to make real estate a career and not a hobby.
Mhm.
And I think once I figured that out, and it didn't take me long, Brenda, it was pretty quickly that I snapped into it because I did not want to go back to corporate. I refused to go back to corporate, so I was going to do everything I could in my power to make sure that I made real estate a career that I could count on. But
Mhm.
yeah, for all those agents out there, if you want real estate to be a career that you can count on, you need to make real estate be able to count on you. You need to maybe make real estate be able to count on you. You need to be the type of agent that you wake up, if you've got 50 calls to make a day or whatever it is that's aligned with your goal, whatever your income goal is, you better make those 50 calls a day. And yeah, guess what? If you don't make those 50 calls a day, that just puts you one day further back from your goals. I say so many agents I work with, I have to just lay it out for them, like, this is how it is. Don't get me wrong, real estate can be the most rewarding career on the planet. I wouldn't change it for anything. I'm basically unhireable at this point. I can't imagine myself doing anything else, as I'm sure you can't, right?
Same. Yeah, same.
But you've got to be so freaking self-disciplined, because if you want to be one of the best, you got to be self-disciplined. I would say that's the first thing. And then the second thing is this: believe much bigger, much sooner. Because I think too often we squander our goals, we squander our visions of what's possible because of those voices around us, the birds, as I like to say.
Mhm.
And I hate to say it, but especially for you new agents out there, don't be surprised if the birds are your family and your friends, your closest family and friends. They'll be in your ear. Oh, well, that's great that you sold that. I can remember my dad, just like it was yesterday. That's great, son. But, when's the next one's going to happen? And he was challenging me. I give him that. But it's a little bit of that negativity that's going to make you doubt yourself if you don't have that self-confidence. And I know one of the things you're very big on in this podcast is self-confidence, and how you use and leverage self-confidence to get through these types of ordeals.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, your self-belief has to be so ridiculous about yourself that without a doubt, come hell or high water, you are going to make it happen. In spite of the family and friends that are going to doubt you, that are going to talk about you behind your back. And they will. You have to be the type of agent that says, I don't give a you know what, because guess what? I don't know if this is for kids or not, so I'm trying to tone it down a little bit. I don't give a you know what, because guess what? I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going until I get where my destination is.
And I think sometimes some of those voices, and I call it noise, some of that noise is meant, they have your best interests at heart. They are worried. They do want to make sure that you can financially make it. And so the questions come from a place of care or concern, or quite frankly, reliance upon corporate, instead of recognizing your entrepreneurial spirit, the fact that you are working far more hours than the typical person, that you're giving it your all, is what your success will be.
Yeah, people resist what they don't understand.
That's
That's what
it.
I like to say.
Yes, that's it. I think many of us have family members who still don't understand what we do for a living.
If I had a dime for every time that was the case, I mean, shoot, I'd be
Yeah.
a millionaire 12 times over by now. You're speaking truth over there, Brenda.
Absolutely, yes. And then even when people watch what we do for a living on TV, they still don't get the full picture of it either, because that's skewed a whole different direction.
They either get one end of the spectrum or the other. They either see the feast or the famine. They either see okay, it's on TV, so wait, so you just get dressed up pretty, you look cute, and you go show a home, and that's it, and you make $1 million. Like, they don't see all the blood, sweat, and tears, They don't see all the comp analysis. They don't see all the tough discussions you have to have with your clients. They don't see all the deals that fall apart. You have to somehow get back up on that horse, keep going, keep going, keep going. And oh, by the way, you got to get your clients motivated to keep going too. Right?
Yes.
Because when a deal falls apart, it's not just you that's impacted by it, it's your clients. They don't see all of that.
We talked kind of pre-show about, hey, we want to hear the stories, even if they're tearful stories. And it's funny because we don't usually end up with tearful stories here, but you and I know that we end up with a lot of tears on our shoulders from our clients.
100%, 1,000%. Yeah, I mean, in fact, I don't have a tearful story, but I'll just give you a quick 30-second droplet of a story, which is I had the beautiful pleasure of being able to go to my wife is Vietnamese, remarried. She's Vietnamese. Had the pleasure of going to Vietnam for almost a month. We went basically, she went for like the whole month of February. I went like about 3 weeks out of February. And, you work hard to get to that point in your real estate career where you can actually do that and hand the keys over to someone and say, okay, I'm leaving. I'm not going to be available. I need you to handle business while I'm out of town.
Hmm.
And I did that. And God bless this couple that I was working with for like almost a year that were under contract, and literally I think the whole world was falling apart all around them. But like with all good things, that is, if you train well, if you're a good trainer as well as a leader, if you're a good trainer, usually you train people on how to get through the most dire of circumstances. And God bless his soul, my right hand man, Carlos Roca. I mean, if he listens to this, just Carlos, you are the man. I trained him well. He's just a rock star in it himself. And he was, dealing with nonstop calls and nonstop chaos for like 2 weeks. And that deal that would have fallen apart for, 9 out of 10 agents, he's like, the last thing I wanted to do was to allow this deal to fall apart for you to come back to a deal that had fallen apart. And I'm just like, you know what? That's why we do what we do,
Yes.
is because of those moments like that you work your ass off. You train your team to be absolute sharks and absolute just rock stars so that you can have that moment where you go overseas and then things literally could not have been any worse, Brenda. I mean, this deal was absolutely one of the worst deals I think I've ever dealt with that luckily I didn't have to deal with much of. And he saved it. I
Yeah.
came back home and we closed it like a week later because he saved this deal. I mean, he literally resurrected it out of the dead. And so I don't know. I'm grateful to him. I'm grateful to those, you know what I mean? Those moments that we have in our career where you just look and you just feel so appreciated, right?
Yes.
For what you do.
Yes, I love that. And the deals that we get to save are the ones that you have that feeling of, and you're just happy that you were able to, at the end of the day, because all the turmoil that was striking that couple at that time, at the end of the day, most of that they'll forget about. I mean, there may be a few harsh pieces that they still
That
say,
are in the back of their mind.
but for the most part, they'll forget that and they'll just remember, gosh, yeah, we had some rough times getting to closing, but wow, Justin and Carlos and their team got us here and we're living here because of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's the fun
that's
part.
the truth. Yeah, I have to agree with you. That is the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really puts it in perspective that at the end of the day, things aren't as big as we might even make them out to be in some respects, but you
Yeah.
know how it feels in the heat of the moment of the deal, if not.
Definitely. Yes. Well, this has been a lot of fun today. As we kind of wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to leave our audience with in last words of encouragement?
And it was one of your prep questions, and I would like to just point to that just for a moment because I thought it was such a very well oriented prep question that I wanted to just touch on. And that is it was something to the effect of what is the one thing that you must show up for?
Yes.
And I love that question because as an agent, as an advisor, a leader, you have to show up for it all. But if I could point to one thing, especially as a newer agent and you're starting to build your practice and maybe you don't have a downline or you don't have a team and all that quite yet, but you're building your business right now. Any in-person meeting that you have, especially that first in-person meeting, you better show up for it. I built my business on that. I'm making sure that I showed up for those first in-person meetings. And I think I'm probably one of those that over prepares for things.
So
Some
am I.
people under prepare. I over prepare. I can remember when I was starting out, and especially when I started to invest in like Zillow leads and stuff like that. And you get these hot Zillow leads and they want to meet you and you need to show them a house and whatever. I can remember coming with these like little packets of information of all the buyer stuff, listings, comps, all branded to my branding, and just coming and showing up with that. Like, and even just that little token of like, hey, I took a little extra time to make sure that I showed up for this showing all out, all out. And then on the same side, on the listing side, coming prepared with, I didn't just come prepared and say, okay, well, let's talk about your house. I went out and I invested in like a 27-inch portable monitor. I set it up on their kitchen table. We go through everything. Just that little extra that I did. So many people to this day have said, "Yeah, you were so well prepared. That's why we went with you because we were so impressed with how prepared you were."
Hmm.
And so for all you new agents out there, I would say come prepared. That first in-person meeting, you get one chance at a first impression, in-person impression, I should say. So
Hmm.
you better make it count, right?
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
what I would leave everyone with for
I
sure.
I love that, and even as much as I love all the things that we can do online and, have live presentations and everything, as much as I love that, I'm still that leave behind person. I still want to give them something that must be of good quality, you know? I was in advertising a lifetime ago for a little bit, and so, quality piece that they can carry with them, and that even if they throw it in the car seat, they still have that, and it reminds them of, "Oh, yeah, she was put together. She had a great presentation." And over the years, like your listening presentation, you may not go through all of the slides, but the fact that you show up and you have it ready and you can show it to them on their desktop, probably on the kitchen table, that you have it and you can flip through it quickly, even if you don't go through slide by slide, it makes such a difference. It's that first impression, you're right.
That's a first impression, and I don't think, unfortunately, especially with the younger generations that live online, they live and breathe online. I still don't think they understand that the majority of the people with the purchasing power are still the older generations. So you better still get used to selling in person.
Mhm.
And even the younger generations, I still find value that in-person contact, that first handshake. Enough can't be said about that first impression, that first in-person impression that you make.
I
So,
agree. I agree.
that's what I would say.
That's great. Thank you. Well, like I said, this has been a lot of fun today. And I love that you wrapped us up with that little piece because I think that's great takeaway for our audience. So thank you for that. Today's been a lot of fun. I'd love to do this again sometime soon.
That would be wonderful, Brenda. Thank you so much for having me on. I had so much fun today.
This episode has been sponsored by Home Smart Stars. Agents, do you feel unseen, unheard? Maybe wish you had better commission? Maybe wish that you were welcomed and encouraged to just show up as you are and be your true, authentic self and have all the training and support and tools to help you thrive in your real estate career? If so, then you need to reach out to Home Smart Stars and make Home Smart Stars your home for real estate.